at the Caps Blue Jackets game. We just won game 5 in overtime, and you're watching Post to Post.
Hello and welcome to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams. I just got done watching the game between the Washington Capitals and the Columbus Blue Jackets, Game 6. Washington obviously won the game, as everyone knows by now, and I'd like to talk about it because this is a series that I think was underestimated, even by myself. There's so much attention on the Toronto-Boston series, so much attention on the Pittsburgh-Philadelphia series that I think a lot of people neglected this series as far as viewing it or watching it on TV. And it's almost a shame because this series was filled with such great hockey. The first 3 games went to overtime. I mean, really, this series could have gone either way. Yeah, Washington won 4-2 in the series in 6 games, but I mean, the fact that there was almost an entire other game of hockey played. Actually, there was more than an entire other game of hockey played just in overtime periods in this series. It's pretty remarkable. I was looking at the time on ice statistics for the forwards in Columbus, and I think it was Calvert that I was looking at, and his time on ice average was 27 minutes and 14 seconds or something like that. A number that would be high for, or average for, a very good defenseman in the NHL, like a Suter or a Subban or someone like that, a Doughty, someone like that. And he's a forward, and his time on ice average was that high because of all of the overtime series. It was just a fantastic series to watch. I hope you guys got a chance to watch it at home. Obviously, the Washington fans and the Columbus fans watching this video would have been able to see every single game, or at least a couple of games. But the people who are watching this video who aren't fans of either of those teams, if you have the opportunity to find one of the first 3 games online somewhere, give it a watch. If you didn't see it live, it was some great hockey, and like I said, very close. Felt like it could have gone either way. I think the right team won. I picked Washington to win. I think they're the better team on paper. I think they're the better team on the ice. So I'm not surprised that they actually did end up winning the series. I've made some notes here. I'd like to go through them. They're in no particular order. I wrote them down just as I thought of them. And the first thing I have down here is the Columbus Blue Jackets' discipline. There were some games where they were extremely undisciplined and put themselves in penalty trouble and had to kill off the countless power plays in very crucial parts of games. And when you're facing the Washington Capitals and you have to deal with Oshie and Backstrom and Carlson and Ovechkin on the same line, on the power play line, a power play that's been quarterbacked by Ovechkin for over a decade, and I think we can say it. He's the best goal scorer of this generation. He's the best goal scorer on any team right now in the NHL. Yeah, there's guys like Austin Matthews can score, and Laine can score, but I mean, truly, Ovechkin, I don't even know if it's arguable. He's the best goal scorer at the moment, and that was proven in this series. He had 8 points. Carlson had 9 points. That power play was just working magic. As good of a defensive team as Columbus is, they clearly struggled with the firepower of Washington on those power plays. But there were some positives with Columbus. It wasn't all negative. I thought Calvert had a really good series. I believe he's the oldest on the team, the most experienced, and I felt like he really led by example. He had some very important offensive plays and some pretty good back checks as well. Anderson was fast and all over the ice. I felt like he had a really good series. Dubois had an amazing series as well. He was a little undisciplined in that last game. Atkinson as well had a really good series. I would be a fool not to mention Panarin. What an absolute magician he is with the puck, just going around the ice and not being stressed. He'll have the puck on the ice, or have the puck on a stick, and he'll break into the zone and twist and go in backwards as the defender gets closer to him. And he can stick handle without looking, which every player can, but he'll be watching where his teammates are going on the ice while backing up into the zone, while getting pressured from behind. And based on where he's getting attacked or pressured from whatever side, he he switches his hips. He just switches his hips, and he's able to defend the puck so well. It reminds me a lot of Yager. Yager's so good at that along the boards, and unfortunately, he isn't in the NHL anymore. But if you had the opportunity to watch Yager at all during his career, you will know how well he can protect the puck, especially along the boards. Panarin reminds me of that, but in open ice. So he's just a thrill to watch. Columbus fans, I mean, you gotta be happy about him. Bobrovsky was great, truly great. He really was this series. For the first couple of games, he was absolutely incredible. Some of the saves he was making was just highlight reel saves after another. And when you're facing players like Ovechkin, like I spoke about, one of the best goal scorer in the game at the moment, you gotta be at the top of your game, and he was. The last game, the game I just watched, Game 6, he let in some soft goals. The Devontae Smith-Pelly goal, which put Washington up, I believe, 4-2. That was pretty weak. And I think the goal after that, which was a breakaway by, I can't remember who it was. And, I mean, he was left to dry in a breakaway, so you can't give him all the blame. But it's probably a shot or a deke that typical Bob would have stopped. He let in 6 goals. One was an empty netter, I think. I was switching back and forth between the Toronto-Boston games, and there was an empty netter in that game too. So, yeah, there was an empty netter. Eller got it. Sorry, just confused. So you can't blame him for the loss tonight, but he did have, unfortunately, a role in the loss. Holtby, on the other end, he sat on the bench for the first 2 games, or the majority of the first 2 games. He came in relief of Grubauer in Game 2, at the end of Game 2, and he regained his throne. You know, he's their starting goaltender, and he was dethroned by Grubauer because Holtby struggled in the last half of the season. Not last half of the season, last quarter of the season. And they decided to give Grubauer the shot, and I don't disagree with that decision. I think that was the right decision based on Grubauer's regular season play and his numbers. But clearly Holtby was very enthusiastic to get back into the net and regain his throne because he played very, very well right from the moment he came into the game in relief of Grubauer. Holtby made some incredible saves alongside Bobrovsky on the other end, which is goaltending. It was a goaltending clinic. It really was. It was pretty cool to see. I'm wondering if Barry Trotz, if this was planned, and that's kind of a weird thing to think about because it's. I mean, I don't mean planned as like the master plan. I just mean like just a small little bit of the decision was the plan to light a fire under Holtby. So you start Grubauer, but just a little bit of that decision to start Grubauer was to light a fire under Holtby, and in hopes that if he did have to come in, even if he had to come in next and start next season, obviously he's going to start next season as the number 1, but even if he started the next season as number 1, that fire, a little bit of fire might still be there because he would be pissed that he didn't get to start in the playoffs last year. Or if he had to start this series like he did, he would have that fire, and he did. So I'm wondering if Barry Trotz is a little bit of a genius, and just a part of that decision was to light the fire under Holtby. The Washington power play, I already spoke about it a little bit, but it's really dialed in. It always has been. Ovechkin's in his office along the circle there, just standing still, watching the play, and then I guess he's right-handed, and he's just doing his thing. But you have to worry about so many offensive threats. You've got Karlsson on the point, you've got Backstrom cycling the puck, and they do so many little things. Like I spoke about this before, and they've done this for a long time. They use 2 specific plays. They put Oshie in the middle and Ovechkin on the side, and they'll cycle the puck, and they'll either give it to Ovechkin or they'll do a quick pass into the middle to Oshie for a quick one-timer. And depending on the team they play and depending on what the team is caught onto, they switch back and forth. They've been doing that for a long time, but I noticed that they were doing more of the Oshie play in this series and during the regular season like they usually would. Excuse me. But in this specific game, it's like I said, it's just the little things. Like when Backstrom's on that right side and he has the puck and he's kind of going back and forth and he's waiting, he's watching, and he comes out to the blue line, he draws the players out, and then Karlsson kind of moves over a little bit. Backstrom goes back in on purpose, and this is all intentional, and draws the players all in, away from Karlsson, away from Ovechkin, in closer to the net, And as he's coming back in, he passes back to Carlson. Carlson quickly over to Ovechkin, and Ovechkin has an available lane to shoot because all the players were drawn in and over. And it's really smart. You can tell that they practice it, and it's something to watch for. Watch for it in the Pittsburgh series for sure coming up. Washington is a team that's always been pretty front-loaded in their top six. This year, I feel like they're a little more offensively gifted throughout their entire lineup. It's not the same team that it was last year or the year before that or 7 years ago. It's a team that relies a little bit more on their depth, and I think I know that that's a more promising thing for Washington because they can throw it out a line and be confident and not have to worry about overplaying your top two lines and getting them tired. They can throw out the Devontae Smith-Pelly line and they can grind the other line down and even get some offensive help from those lines, which you saw tonight. So I think Washington fans should be pretty pleased with the lineup this year, and I think they match up pretty well against Pittsburgh, much better than last year. Columbus fans should be happy as well. Obviously, it sucks to see your team lose in the first round again and never get by the first round. It's incredibly frustrating, but there's so many positives on the team that it is one of the best defensive teams in the league, so there's lots to be proud about. Like I said, Calvert played really well, Panarin was amazing, Anderson was good, Bobrovsky was good. All over the ice, there was positives. Excuse me. But there are changes that have to come. So be proud of the team, Columbus fans, but be prepared to see changes up front offensively. You'll probably see Columbus try and make some moves in the offseason, get a little younger, get a little younger offensive talent up front to play with Panarin and those other guys. And you should see Columbus probably be a little bit more offensively gifted next season. At least that's my prediction, or that's what I would do if I was in charge. The last thing I have on my list is I just have written down the Tortorella effect. And what I mean by that is he's a very outspoken, very aggressive coach, not only to his team, his players, but the media. I mean, I don't really have to explain it. If you've seen his time in New York, sorry, if you've seen his time in New York, in Columbus, in Vancouver, all the places that he's coached, he's very aggressive with the media. He doesn't take any crap. He'll walk out on a press conference. He did it twice in this series alone. He'll give it back to the reporters. He has a lot of conflictions in the media. I'm wondering if the players... It's kind of like in Calgary, in Glenn, he just got let go. I wonder if the players don't, after a while, stop responding to that type of aggressive coaching style. I'm wondering if the Columbus players are now entering that zone a little bit. So I'm curious how they do next year. If they start to fall next year, and if they miss the playoffs next year, I would assume that Tortorella would be let go. He's a very successful coach, but he's a very hard coach to play for. He's the opposite of Gerard Gallant. He's not a player's coach, in my opinion. Last thing on here is the prediction. I predicted Tampa to win in 5. They did. I predicted... what was that other series? This series, I predicted Washington and Columbus. I predicted Washington to win in 6. They did. I predicted Pittsburgh to win in 6. They did. So the only series left in the East that is not finished yet is the Boston-Toronto series. And I predicted Boston to win in 7, and it's going to 7 games. So if Boston can win, not tomorrow night, the next night, if Boston can win, then I will have a perfect prediction record in the East, which is amazing. Let's not talk about my West because it's not good. The Anaheim pick is still haunting me. But predictions are fun anyway. So hope you guys had fun watching this specific Washington-Columbus series. As these series wind down, more videos will be releasing on the upcoming series. So we've got the San Jose Vegas series. We have the Winnipeg Nashville series, and the Pittsburgh Washington series. Each of these series will get its own video, and then of course the other series that's not done yet, which will set up the Tampa matchup. That'll have its own video as well. So I really don't have anything else to say other than what I've already said in this series. I had a ton of fun watching it. I'm going to be watching probably more of Washington and Columbus next year because of the great series here. I think a little bit of a rivalry was born. So any regular season games next year between the two teams, I'm going to note those on my calendar and make sure I watch them. So hope you guys do the same, and I hope you like this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button to see more upcoming future videos. And I'll see you in those videos in the future. Adios, guys.